Hello, welcome to this week's video. Now this week I've decided to do a video on string gauges. Now what prompted that, if you've been watching my channel, you know my most recent guitar purchase is this EVH Wolfgang. Let me get it down. Which has really inspired me to get playing again. And this guitar, as per Eddie's specifications, comes with 9s on it. So I've had to go and buy 9s. Previously, all of my guitars have had 10s on, with the exception of my Gretsch, which came with 11s, and I've replaced them with 11s so far. And because I was playing on that guitar so much with the 9s, I decided I was going to put a set of 9s on one of my Strats. Now, it's on this one, hang on. This is a James Tyler Studio Elite, I think. Anyway, and I decided I was going to put 9s on it. I was going to set it up similar to that guitar. I flattened the tremolo down so it sits against the body of the guitar. Previously it was floating, and I lowered the action. Well, I kept the action actually the same. The action did go very low at one point, but I've put it back up to be roughly the same as my other guitars, just to make it a bit easier to play. But of course that then prompted me to work out whether I was sacrificing any tone for ease of playing. So that's kind of what this video is about. It's a kind of gig diary, because I've got some footage of me playing using different guitars with different gauges. So you can tell me if you think it makes any difference. Now, it's an interesting topic if you look into it, because you get players, great sounding players, who use all kinds of different string gauges. From Billy Gibbons, who supposedly uses 7s, he just plays incredibly lightly with quite a high gain. I don't know how he gets that amazing sound with such small strings. And apparently Jimmy Page famously used 8s. Eddie Van Halen uses 9s, as per this guitar. Lots of people use 10s, but then you go all the way up to Steve Ray Vaughan, who used at least 12s with sometimes heavier strings on the top and even heavier strings sometimes. And there's a story about how he was on tour and his fingers were wearing out and he was putting super glue on his forearm and ripping the skin off so he could reinforce his fingertips, to which someone said to him, why don't you just use lighter strings? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you me playing with 4 different guitars with 2 different string gauges. So basically I've put 9s on that guitar, but it came with 9s and I've replaced it with 9s, and 9s on the Tyler Strat. And the other 2 guitars I'm playing are my 335, which has 10s on, although it's a shorter scale length, but we'll come to that, and my Custom Shop Strat. Hang on, let me get that one. My 1956 Closet Classic Custom Shop Strat, which I've had a long time. It's probably my main guitar really, I guess. And this has 10s on, floating tremolo. Similar, they've all got similar actions, they're all set up fairly similarly. Anyway, so we can see if you can hear the difference in sound. Now first I want to show you though the setup. They're all going through the same setup, which is my Milkman amp, which you can see there. I'm going to do a close-up on that, and my pedal board, which I'll give you a little tour of now. So here's the pedal board. I've been meaning to do a video on this for absolutely ages and haven't got round to it, but basically my first thing is still in the mono case. Couldn't be bothered to take it out or turn it on because I don't need to. It goes into this EP booster, which is great. I have that on nearly all the time, particularly with single coil pickups. Comes out of that into the Clyde full tone wah. And it then comes out of this into my newest pedal, which is the SL Drive, which I didn't actually use on any of those clips. I'm still getting used to using that because it can. There's quite a lot of gain. I'm still not totally used to it, although I did do a video on it, or I did get it right when I was comparing it directly with my Marshall amp, which is here. Then it goes, I believe, into the blues driver. That's a Keeley modified blues driver. Then into a Keeley compressor, which I don't use that much, but I do use sometimes. Into a Keeley modified tube screamer. It then, oh, now we're getting tricky. I think it goes into the volume pedal, I think, at that point, which is an EP Junior, which splits the signal into the tuner, so the tuner isn't in the signal path. And then I believe it goes into the delay pedal, that's T-Rex replica delay, and then into my Eventide H9, and then into this, which is my second newest pedal, the Steel String Supreme, which I haven't been using loads and loads, but it's great because sometimes, you know, in certain situations it's you can get a nice clean boost on it, and it's a, you know, a less overdriven gain, less gainy overdrive sound. It's a great sounding pedal, and I do use it from time to time, but they're all different sounding gain pedals. But there we are, that's my setup. Right, first clip, I did show a clip of this gig last week. It was a fantastic band, some of the top musicians in the UK and two amazing singers. And actually I was singing this song. I don't know why I was singing when I'm standing next to two incredible vocalists. It was a lovely day by Bill Withers, but here's the solo I played in it so you can hear the tone of the 335 with 10s, see what you think. I'm going to alternate these with a gig I did last week. Ben, who's on bass here, he was in my second ever band. We won a Battle of Bands competition 30 odd years ago. I might do a video on that because I found some old recordings of us which I think is quite interesting. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. I'm playing my EVH on this, which is strung with 9s, same amp, same setup. Now this is a bit more of a bluesy song, a bit more frantic. This is a 3-piece thing, but see what you think of the tone. See if you think it sounds more weedy because it's got thinner strings. These pickups do sound different. The pickups, they're definitely more toppy, the pickups on the Van Halen guitar. I think they're voiced, the more gain you've got, I think you need a bit more treble in the pickups to make it cut through, and they certainly sound like that, but they sound great wound up. So see what you think. See if you were sacrificing any tone by having less string. Back to the 335. This time I think I've got the wah-wah pedal clipped in. This is a solo on Man's World by James Brown. And now another bit of rocky stuff on the EVH. See what you think. So can you hear the difference? Now I know it's a different guitar, they do sound different. The pickups on the EVH are higher output. Also, the other thing to bear in mind is that constant thing of the sacrifice between ease of playing and tone. Of course, the 335 is easier to play because it has a shorter scale length, as Gibsons have a shorter scale length than Fenders, and the EVH is got the same scale length as a Fender. Now I think I can hear the difference, and I can certainly see that I'm playing differently because the strings are lighter on this guitar, because it's still easier to bend on 9s even with a longer scale length than that. And I can hear a difference in tone, but I don't know whether that's because it's me playing and I can sort of, I don't know, it's sort of tangible. I can feel and hear the difference it makes, but if it was someone else playing, not sure I could. I also don't think it makes quite as much difference with humbuckers because they're just a fatter tone. I think that a lot of the tone comes from the amp. I'm not sure that the string gauge makes as much difference in this case as it could do with a Strat, which is what we're moving on to next. Let's move on to some comparisons here between my two different Strats, which I showed you, my James Tyler Strat. Now that's a slightly different type of guitar. It's actually a completely hollow body, and it's got the humbucker on the bridge rather than the single coil. And since I did this gig, I've actually, with the help of Roger, my old guitar teacher, who has forgotten more about guitars than I've ever known, and he helped me out with it. Let me show you, this is quite interesting. There is a big difference when you switch between the single coils to the humbucker. It suddenly gets quite fat, and it seems like it loses treble. I don't think it does, but I think because it fattens up, you seem like you're losing treble. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but we've actually raised the pole pieces up on the pickup here, left the pickup the same, or lowered the pickup but raised the pole pieces, and it does seem to make it more similar to the single coil pickups. It still sounds quite fat compared, but certainly through a wound up amp sounds great. That pickup really works well. Anyway, that's off the subject. So this first tune is a Stevie Ray Vaughan tune, and I think this is the one where it's going to make the biggest difference of all. Stevie Ray Vaughan's playing isn't just about the tone of those big strings, it's the way he plays, the way he attacks the strings. With thinner strings, it doesn't work in the same way. His playing, more than any other that I'm familiar with, sort of relies on those strings being big and beefy and you've been able to lay into it. So I thought I might struggle on this tune with a set of 9s, but I didn't particularly. I did have to slightly modify the way I was playing, not whack the bottom strings quite as hard, but I think the tone was still pretty good. Have a listen, see what you think of this. Little baby, I'm a little lover boy. Now onto a more funky bluesy tune. This is Long Train Running by the Doobie Brothers, and I'm playing my 56 Closet Classic Custom Shop Strat with 10s on, as I mentioned before. Now I'm actually playing pretty quick on here. I'm listening to it thinking, oh, it sounds in my head like I'm playing on 9s because I'm playing really quickly and fluently. But actually that was because I've been doing lots of practice, which probably makes more difference than anything. You can go on about your gear and everything, but the more you practice, the more you play, the better you sound. It probably is irrelevant really, the gear, compared to how much you're practicing and playing. Anyway, so I'm playing really fast. I probably couldn't do what I'm doing right this second as I was a month or so ago on this gig, because I haven't had a chance to practice as much because too much stuff going on. Anyway, see what you think of this, see what you think of the tone. to the 9s again on the Tyler Strat. This is moving up. This has got the wire on it, and it's a nice bit of contrast with the dynamics and stuff in here, so that's why I want to put this one on here so you can hear it. And then a bit of disco-y funk, Ain't No Stopping Us Now, on the 10s on the Fender Strat again. So see what we think of the tone on this one. So in conclusion, I think it probably does make a bigger difference on the Strat. Certainly the way I think about playing the Strat, the way I play it, I certainly play it harder than I play the 335 or the EVH guitar. Just because of the nature of it, I think a Strat lends itself to being played harder. I'm probably going to put 10s back on the James Tyler. I'm not going to put 10s back on, never put them on. I'm not going to put 10s on the EVH because that's designed to be 9s. And that's why I want it. I want it to be a sort of fast, rocky guitar. But I might go back to 9s on the Tyler. It's not just because of the tone, because I can hear a slight difference in tone, but I don't think it makes that much difference. And it does make it slightly easier to play. But I just need to practice more to be able to do it on the 10s rather than 9s. But there's definitely, when I'm doing that sort of stratty Steve Ray Vaughan stuff, I definitely need to hit it harder. Or I might keep that guitar for not doing that kind of stuff and play one of my other Strats for that kind of thing. Who knows? It's always good to have a variety of different things, and it justifies having all these different guitars. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to leave you with one more video of me playing Voodoo Child, a Hendrix track. Now, of course, with Hendrix, although there's similarities to Steve Ray Vaughan, and Steve Ray Vaughan tried to copy him to get at, he always said he was going for Hendrix's tone. Hendrix didn't use such heavy strings. In fact, he used a weird gauge of strings. He had a 10 on the top, and it went all the way down to strings on the bottom were even lighter than a standard set of 9s. So probably my Tyler Strat with a set of 9s on feels more akin to Hendrix's guitar would have done than Steve Ray Vaughan's, which in my mind makes it easier to play Hendrix because I'm not thinking about the fact that I need heavy strings because they're probably more like he was using. Is that a thing? I don't know. It's all in the mind. Different guitars, different gauges make you play and think differently about stuff. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Could you hear the difference between the string gauges? Do you think it makes a difference? I mean, I haven't made any firm conclusions. It's kind of horses for courses, really. And I'll probably keep using the guitars with the lighter gauges for that faster, more rocky stuff, and put heavy gauges on if I want to do Steve Ray Vaughan and anything in between. I haven't really made up my mind. I think when you're out on a gig with an amp wound up, the string gauge probably makes less difference than how much practice you've been doing. Thank you very much for watching. I'm bringing out new videos 7 PM UK time every Friday, so I hope to see you next week.
Yeah.